أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا يأتيه الباطل من بين يديه ولا من خلفه تنزيل من حكيم حميد. صدق الله العظيم. अभी जिस आयत करीमा की तिलावत का शफ़ास की है उसका तर्जुमा पेश नज़र है। जिन लोगों ने नसीहत को न माना जब वो उनके पास आई और ये तो एक आली रुतबा किताब है, उस पर झूठ का दखल न आगे से हो सकता है न पीछे से, और दाना और खूबियों वाले खुदा की उतारी हुई है। तुम में से वही बातें कही जाती हैं जो तुमसे पहले और पैगम्बरों से कही गई थी। बेशक तुम्हारा परवरदिगार देने वाला भी है और आदाब अलीम देने वाला भी है। शुक्रिया।
Nizami Memorial Lecture will be delivered by Professor Lawrence from USA. We are assembled here today for the 4th K. Nizami Memorial Lecture to be delivered by Professor Bruce B. Lawrence of Deep University. I will request Dr. Mughal Salim Sahib, Assistant Professor of the Center, to present a souvenir, to present recent publications, a set of recent publications to Professor Bruce B. Lawrence. A set of recent publications of the Center.
Recent books, so presentation, yeah.
And then I request Mr. Arshad Iqbal Sahib, Assistant Professor of the Center, to present a souvenir of the Center to Professor Bruce B. Lawrence. And I request Mr. Hamid Mian Sahib, Assistant Professor, to present a souvenir of the Center to Ms. Bruce Lawrence. I'm sorry, I could not know hardly.
Mrs. William Bruce.
And I request Professor Abdul Rahim Tadwai Sahib, Director of the Center, to present the souvenir to Professor Zafar Islam Sahib, Chair of the program. Professor Abdul Rahim Tadwai will be welcoming the guests and introducing to the audience. Introducing Professor Bruce B. Lawrence to the audience.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. On behalf of the Ali Muslim University, on behalf of Professor Khalid Ahmad Nizami, Center for Quranic Studies, and on behalf of the faculty members and our dear students, we all welcome you, Professor Lawrence, once again to the K. Nizami Center. You know the place very well. We were very fortunate about, was it 3 years ago?
2014, 4 years ago.
4 years ago, yeah.
Time went by.
Time flies. Professor Lawrence was gracious enough to deliver a stunning lecture on one of the distinguished English translators of the Quran, that's Abdullah Yusuf Ali. And as part of that lecture, he recounted the inspiring story of a judge in South Africa, Judge Murphy, John Murphy, how on reciting, he was judged there in South Africa. By chance, he laid his hands on Abdullah Yusuf Ali's English translation of the Quran. As part of that, he read Surah Al-Duha, very brief surah which you and I recite every day. And that recitation moved him so much, influenced him so deeply that he embraced Islam. And Professor Lawrence, in his both printed lecture and in part of his lecture, he recounted it in a very moving, stirring way. So we are very fortunate to have his patronage. It goes without saying that he is one of the most prominent scholars of Islamic studies presently. Here is his latest book, that's on the Quran translations, an account of English translations of the Quran down the centuries. And this is one of the very many books which he has authored. Presently, he is the Nancy and Jeffrey Marcus Humanities Professor Emeritus. Not just Professor of Islamic Studies, he is Professor Emeritus at Deep University. Some of his other important publications, he has so many publications to his credit, but some important ones are Who is Allah? New Faiths, Old Fears, Muslims and Other Asian Immigrants in American Religious Life, and Shattering the Myth, and then Islam Beyond Violence, published by the Princeton University Press. Another common bond between Professor Lawrence and the AMU faculty is Professor Nizami. He takes pride in being his association with Professor Nizami. His student, yes, I was on the slightly hesitant to say because at this level, introducing you as a student didn't seem so fitting for me. Anyway, he is Professor Nizami's student in 1970s, of course. He has such full love and affection for Professor Nizami. Would you believe last time when he sent his email telling him about his travel to India, his itinerary in India, said I would have loved to be in Aligarh on the day of the 10th anniversary of Professor Nizami, so as to pay tribute to him on that particular day. And of course, that did not coincide. His travel plan was such that he arrived here today, that's on 14th February. So once again, I welcome you and I thank my faculty colleagues here who have assembled in such large numbers to listen to, I'm sure, another very engaging, thought-provoking and substantial presentation by Professor Lawrence. Thank you very much. And let me add that he left Delhi at 7 in the morning, both he and his wife. I must thank his wife, Mrs. Miriam Bruce Lawrence, for having taken pains. They left Delhi at 7 in the morning and hoping that they would be here by 10:30 when they would go to guest house for freshening up. But as things are here, the traffic, Shivratri, and then the traffic jam and all these things, they were stuck there right from the car. They just got down and joined us here. So I'm not keep you waiting anymore. So I would now request Professor Lawrence to deliver his lecture, please. That's on the Quran side. Yes, our presentation is here. It will be displayed. Yeah.
it just goes forward like this.
We can see from here. Yeah. Have visible here? Mother tongue?
And kind of visible. You can't visible.
You can see.
Oh.
Yes.
Maybe I can see that too. So, let me say, I'm delighted to be here. Let me first say that I consider it one of the miracles of Allah that the roads of India did not prevent me from coming here. My wife and I at one point said, I hope it's a good crowd and they will listen to the Quran, which is nice. We were very much stuck. I was hoping to honor my friend, Dr. Abdullah's goodbye by being here on time, but ahead of time. And now I'm just glad to be here. And also want to echo what he said about my relationship with Professor Nizami. And I should just say that I had the privilege of staying in Aligarh for 2 years from 74 to 76, and actually lived in the Nizami villa because Professor Nizami was then the Indian ambassador to Damascus. So I had the privilege of not only staying in his home here, but then later visiting him in Damascus, and together we went to the tomb of Muhyiddin ibn al-Arabi, the great saint. So I have had a lot of relationships with Professor Nizami, both in Aligarh and in Damascus, in the world at large. But I never thought I'd be coming back here to talk about the Quran. I always thought that the subject of which Professor Nizami and I worked, which he taught me a lot, was the Sufism, especially about the Chishtiya, and especially about the works, the literature of Sheikh Nizami al-Awliya after his life. So it's a great surprise for me, not only that we arrived here, that I have the privilege of talking to all of you, but that I'm talking about the Quran, the Holy Quran. And actually, I'm very much indebted, if I'm a student of Professor Nizami at Tasawwuf, I'm also a student of Professor Bidbai when it comes to thinking about the Quran in English. And this is a subject which I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to begin with something which I can't read very well, but I hope you can read it. This is the very first passage from a book, very recent by an American named Sandel Beard, and he transliterated the entire Quran in English. All 6,236 verses, graphic English. I don't know whether you can see it well enough there, but this is how it's written. And if you can see it, there is sort of behind the background over here, there is actually a farmer's tractor. It could be somebody in Aligarh, but it's actually somebody in America. And so what he has done is he's taken the whole first part of Surah Yasin from the Holy Quran, he's transliterated, but then he's put this border design around it. And that's interesting, but to me the most interesting thing is that he calls it, "O human being." I hope you can see that, "O human being." That immediately struck me. And I know all of you who are students of the Holy Quran know that Yasin is usually, the chapter title is the same as these two letters, Yasin. So how does he get "O human being"? He doesn't know Arabic. He's been talking. He says very openly, "I don't know Arabic. I'm not a Muslim, but I have this great respect for Islam, and I want to reproduce this holy book for Americans." So he calls it American Quran. But when he comes to chapter 36, he calls it "O human being." And so I thought, and I puzzled about that. I said, where? In all of the translations of the Holy Quran that have been done in English, where do we find Surah Yasin, the title, "O human being"? Only one. That's Muhammad Asad. Muhammad Asad, the message of the Quran. And so this was sort of, to me, the beginning of a thread. You know, when you take a thread and you unravel it. It unraveled so many more things because when I recognized he had done, and he did it, and he admits he did it, he takes translations and he wants to know what feels most accessible. So his goal is not always accuracy, but what is accessible to people who know nothing about Islam, who have never read the Quran, who will never be able to understand it in Arabic. And so he begins Surah Yasin, and he does it by calling it "O human being," and he does the basmala, and then he does by the Quran, which is full of wisdom, and the rest of it. So I want to talk today, and I'm standing out here so I can see what I said. this, not only is it important the content of the Holy Quran, but it's also important as to what the market of it is. And I want to say in Professor Kidvai's presence, oh my gosh, I never thought I'd see this, mashallah. They bring it here. So,
Somebody presented a copy of this
so
to me.
it's only because I have done my exercises that I can open this up. It is so huge when you say size matters that you have to be very careful as to where you open it up. So, I'm as far as Rum, I'm as far as Sabah, and I'm as far as the Fatim, and then I've got the human being. So I finally found a human. So this is, when I say size matters, when I said size matters, you can tell, here I am holding up this translation of Sandal Beard, and it is a very big book, and I will talk about why it is important, but also why it is limited by its weight. And I will say more about that. Thank you very much. Thank you for that prop. I didn't expect such a prop. So, I wanted to say that size matters, and no patronage marks contemporary Quran production in English. But the market does determine sale and use. But a spiritual zest, that is eagerness to know about the Quran, has caused more and more translations to appear in the past 100 years. So I'm going to talk a lot about the translations. Most of you know about a lot of these translations, but some of you will not know about. But I want to emphasize the fact that there are popularized Qurans that tend to be small and pocket-sized. And I think I brought with me, I'll just do a walk over here to see if my bag is still here, and I can produce what I carry around with me sometimes when I'm going. So this is the pocket Quran. So this is, if I'm doing an illustration of size matters, this I could not carry around with me. I can barely pick it up. And this I carry everywhere. And so you all recognize this. This is Wahid Khan. And this is his pocket-sized rendition of the Quran. This you can carry everywhere. I can put this in my pocket. I can go anywhere and I have the Quran with me, a pocket-sized Quran from Wahid Khan. But there is no pocket-sized Sandal Beard. There is just room size, big size, a huge Quran. So size matters. Thank you very much. Now I do my exercises for the day. So, to return, again, popularized Qurans, like this Quran, Al-Abdul Khan, tend to be pocket-sized, while larger ones appeal to a more limited but curious readership. So here are 3 samples. I don't need to tell you more. You've already seen this. This is Abdul. This is Wahid Khan. 3 by 4 inches, a pound. Made in India, printed in English, distributed in Turkey. I should say that I got this. I didn't pay for this, but I didn't steal it. I was given this when I went to the Rustam Pasha Mosque in Istanbul, Turkey. So here it is. An Indian translator, produced in English, and distributed in Turkey. That says something about how the Quran becomes known as a commercial work. Then there's Muhammad Asad, to whom I referred. And Professor Kidvai, are you going to produce a copy of the Message of the Quran? We'll leave that for later. But if you haven't seen it, it's like this and like this. It's not as big as Sandal Beard, but it's big. There's no pocket-sized version of the Message of the Quran by Muhammad Asad. So it was made in Granada. That is to say, he did the translation. Muhammad Asad did it in Granada, Spain. It was funded in Saudi Arabia. Many people don't know this. But of course, you know, the Al-Nisa Foundation in Jeddah funded the reproduction, and printing of Muhammad Asad, but it's printed and distributed in the UK and USA. I don't know about you, Professor Kidvai, but I've been to Saudi Arabia. It's not available. Message of the Quran is not available in the place where it was produced. But you can get it anywhere in America or in the United Kingdom. So here is Sand Albert. I don't need to say it, you've already seen it. So when I first began this project, I thought it'd be a very small, easy project. I began it in 2010. And here I am 8 years later, and I think I could rewrite the book and do it very differently today. But I had to do it for a publisher who wanted it in by 2016, and he was lucky to get it a year later, 2017. But the reason I thought it easy is because by 1900 there were only 4 translations, 4 major translations of the Holy Quran in English. That's less than 120 years ago. Then, by 2 years ago, 2016, by 2000, there were 62 more. But then in the last 16, 17 years, there have been 44 more. So the number of translations of the Holy Quran, they're not all original, I want to stress that. And Professor Kidby has written about this at length. Not all these new translations are new. Many of them repeat or draw on, I could even use the word plagiarize, earlier translations. But nonetheless, there are different names on different editions. And so now what we have in the 21st century, we have roughly 3 new translations of the Holy Quran coming out every year. And I say that this one by Sand Albert, this big one, which I showed you earlier, this one is on sale, not on sale, on display here. This one, I would say, is unusual because not only of its size, which is very unusual, but because it's the first transcription with border art. I call it Noah's Ark of Images of the Holy Quran. And I put down here in very brief a subject which has occupied some people, and I will talk about it further if you ask me. Why does Sand Albert, and why do many people have Quran in the title, but then Quran elsewhere? So if you read this book, and it's very interesting, I encourage you just to look through it, you will see that it's American Quran is the title. But then throughout, the Quran is mentioned about 36 times, and the Holy Quran itself is the word Quran. Throughout the text, Quran becomes the actual name, while Quran in the title, according to the author, he uses as respectful in Islamic history and Muslim preference. So he uses both translations, Quran and Quran. And here's just a brief history, which many of you may know. There were 2 British translators who were really famous, George Sale, who of course called his book The Quran, commonly called the El Quran of Muhammad. And I won't go through the whole history of how people originally thought that Muhammad was the author instead of the vehicle, the transmitter of the Holy Quran. That's a whole other issue. But George Sale, nonetheless, knew Arabic and knew well enough to make it respectable.